Welcome to Beauty and the Beast, where we create a safe haven for Black men to engage in deep conversations and share their journeys in a judgment-free space.
In each episode, we dive into topics that matter, from identity and relationships to personal growth and resilience. This is a space where your story is valued, your voice is heard, and your journey is shared with others who, like you, may feel alone in the world.
Join us as we normalize conversations that are too often left unspoken and build a community rooted in support, understanding, and empowerment. Whether you're seeking connection, inspiration, or simply a place to be yourself, you're in the right place.
Through heartfelt storytelling and insightful dialogue, the podcast aims to dismantle stigma and foster a deeper understanding of the emotional landscapes navigated by Black men, ultimately highlighting the beauty that emerges from their journeys. Let's break the myth that Black men are beasts. I'm Malik Baraka, leadership coach, skills trainer, workshop facilitator, and a man of the culture.
My name is Kyle Vaughn, University of Miami Hurricane, corporate leader, advocate for mental health, and movie producer. Welcome to Beauty and the Beast. Let's start the conversation.
Yo, brother,
What's up, man?
this is your moment.
My moment?
It's your moment.
It's our moment.
It's our moment, but we're gonna cater to you a little bit on this one in the same way that you did with me in my episode.
Okay. All right. Got it.
We're gonna dig into those cracks and crevices a little bit in the same way that you did with me, so that our audience can get to know you a little better.
All right. Cool.
Right?
Cool. I'm ready.
So you playing power forward today, and I'm point guard.
Okay. Got it.
We know that we have a lot of history. We've known each other for quite some time, and I think we shared a little bit about it in my interview,
Mm-hmm.
right? With the audience. But I'm curious to know your version of the story and what it looks and feels like you starting from, when we first met.
Mm-hmm. So, and you and I have talked about this, right? Excuse me, just getting over this cold. And you didn't even actually remember the first time we met because was working at a certain company here in Atlanta, and you were sourcing for my boss, and you were just walking the halls, and I don't remember how it happened, but you stepped into my office and introduced yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just sticks out to me. That was our actual first interaction. But as you said, a couple years later after I transferred divisions, working for one of the divisions of the same company, and you were doing the sourcing for me. And I found it interesting what you said is that I didn't seem very approachable.
Right.
So I know, and I have gotten that before where people don't think I'm approachable, but I'm actually glad I'm getting this opportunity because I think I'm going to surprise a lot of people through just the conversation and dialogue who don't really know me on that level.
Right.
But anyway, I think, and then you also said it was the pooled EA, because I don't want to make it seem like, or executive assistant who was supporting the entire group.
Sure.
That kind of sealed the deal for you. It's like, nah, he's a good dude.
Right. Yeah, definitely, because her energy was that auntie energy, very nurturing, taking care of everybody, especially all the few amount of Black folks that were in there.
Right.
So when she co-signed you, I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Then what I'm getting from him is likely just that initial armor.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. No, definitely. And we can get into it. I definitely wore a mask in that place. There's no questions about it.
Yeah.
And it took me many years to figure that out. And it took me many years to be able to shed that mask. But then it took me a couple more years after that to figure out that it's okay to be different and for different people and different audiences, as long as you know that's what you're doing. It is conscious and not an unconscious thing that you're doing to make everybody feel comfortable.
I think that's a great place to dig in with that mask. Talk a little bit about that for you and kind of the genesis of that.
So, I mean, both my parents, especially my father, I would say, I grew up in a 2-parent home, and my father was a professional, right? So I grew up in a household where my parents both went off to work. My father was an accountant, right? So you don't get no more corporate than that.
Sure.
And I watched him, right? I watched him have to be very different because we're talking about the 80s, the 70s, late 70s. I probably don't remember much from that period of time, but in the 80s, early 90s, I'm watching my father be in these different settings, and I'm watching how he interacts with people. How he interacts with his boss and his colleagues. And that just sunk in. Like, I had to have a white voice. I had to have a white persona. Those things just were ingrained in me unconsciously. Because it's not like my father or mother said, this is the way you have to be. It was just me watching and being observant of the way that they were in the world.
And so I would assume you were indifferent about it. It didn't make you feel one way or another. You're like, this is the way.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like the Mandalorian. This is the way. Like, I didn't think anything of it. It didn't. To really get to the crux of the thing, it really was about me being successful in the world. And I, at that point in time, my thought process was, I'm going to be successful come hell or high water. I don't care what it takes. I grew up in a neighborhood that was, I grew up in Carroll City. And if anybody out there who knows anything about Carroll City, this is a hood.
Right.
And the thing about Miami, it's not like, unlike Atlanta, you can have an affluent Black area. That doesn't exist in Miami.
Right.
You know that.
Right.
So Carroll City is a place where all the Black folks live. And so, yeah, my father's a professional. Sure, he's making his way in the world as a professional, but we're in the hood.
Right.
So, growing up in that environment, I'm like, this is not what I want to spend the rest of my life. I just didn't. So I was just like, okay, so if I got to be this other person to be successful in the world, guess what? I'm going to be this other person.
How did the strategy of masking show up in Carroll City?
Good question. I don't know if it showed up in Carroll City. I think the masking, not knowing at the time that that's what was happening, I think it was really rooted in the fact that, one, wanting to be successful in the world,
right,
but wanting others to feel comfortable with me, right? And I think a lot of it really was born out of the fact that I had one foot in African-American culture and one foot in Caribbean-American culture.
Yeah.
And my mother being from Turks and Caicos, and no, not the glitzy, touristy part that everybody sees. The house that my mother grew up in had wooden windows that you swung open to the outside with no screens. Like, literally, it was a hook, and there was no running water, and there was no lights back in the day. And so having that dichotomy where school months, I'm in Miami. Every summer that I can remember, from the beginning of time till probably about 13, 14, was spent in either Turks and Caicos or the Bahamas. And so it was being, it was interesting, right? So I was the guy who had an accent in Miami, who I didn't think I really had an accent. And then I was the guy in Turks and Caicos that had the American accent. And I was just like, I really
stuck between two worlds.
Yeah, I was stuck between two worlds. And so you just had to get comfortable being in different worlds.
Yeah. So let me ask a different question then, because it's clear from what you shared that masking wasn't necessarily what you were imploring in Carroll City. But the reason I asked that question is I'm thinking back to conversations around you being in a two-parent household in Carroll City, it being the hood because of everything else that you were surrounded around, and how you then navigated between that dichotomy.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, one, it was having to have this somewhat tough guy persona.
There we go.
Right? I mean, somewhat. It was more about survival skills, right, than it was anything else, right? And to your point that I now understand where you're going, it was one, I think it was more about, I think it was less about being and showing that I was tough and more about showing you couldn't take advantage of me.
Yeah.
Right. And I just got comfortable in that world. I mean, because unfortunately, I've been in the middle of gunfights.
Mm-hmm.
Not me with a gun,
Sure.
but having to dive under a car.
I know that
Like
energy.
in the parking lot of our high school.
Yeah.
Like we go to school dance, we walk out, and all of a sudden you start hearing bullets whizzing over your head. Right? So you got to be very street aware of what the hell is going on around you to survive. But you also got to have a persona. Let me say it differently. It's not about the persona as much as it is know who you can rock with, who will either help you to sense the danger or help you get out of danger.
Yeah.
And that you got to carry a persona as it relates to that.
I connect to that deeply because what came up for me as you said that was, for me, it was also less about masking when I was still navigating the hood, as much as it was knowing who I could offer certain parts of myself to versus not.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I to that point about masking, it as an adolescent, it was about, straddling different worlds and then also trying to, show that you couldn't be pushed over, but you were also the nerd, like you were also the smart guy because you spoke more intelligent, you spoke more white, right? Because that was kind of the thing. And then also too, my mother is biracial, and so there's that's in the household. In addition to the fact that my mother's from the Caribbean, but I think too it's rooted in this place of being comfortable that I want to get out of this situation, but I also want to survive, right? Because again, I've seen dead bodies. I have seen people's blood, brain splattered on the ground, right? I have seen people shot. I have seen people stabbed, right? And so I don't want that for myself, right? I have seen the police come jumping out the back of a car or the van, and what did I forget what they were called? The jump out boys.
Jump out boys.
The jump out boys,
sure.
right? I've seen the jump out boys come out on the scene, right? So I think it was there's so much. There's survival. But you know what? Let me just say it this way. I think it's rooted in survival. But I think then that manifests itself in saying, okay, it was about survival. But now, as you start to say, well, I really want to be successful in this world. Now it's rooted in how do I pivot this so that I can be who I need to be in this world to get the level of success that I want to get. And I think that's the point at which you really start to wear the mask. Because it's one thing to be focused on survival, right? You still can be comfortable in your skin, right? And I know that sounds crazy, right? Because we're talking about, being in the middle of gun battles.
Right.
But it's what you knew. So it wasn't like I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm in a foreign place. Like I'm comfortable in my skin.
Right.
But then you start to pivot and get into these spaces where you got to be somebody else, right? So, getting out of high school, going into college, right? That's an interesting story in of itself in terms of one, understanding that I needed to do certain things to be perceived as having a successful path, right? Because the reality of the situation is somebody has to be comfortable with you to pull you up.
Gotcha.
Right? And so I will never forget the day that I was sitting in the office of Carroll City. I was student government president. Miami, Carroll City. Shout out to the Chiefs. And this gentleman comes in the office and he is from, was it FMLA? Something like that, or no, FCCA or something like that. Family Christian Association of America, FCAA. That's what it was. Yeah. He was the president, and my father knew this guy, but I didn't know who he was really. I'd seen him, and he walks in the office, and he puts down this piece of paper in front of me and he says, hey, you know anybody that wants scholarships? Now, mind you, this is spring of my senior year. I'm locked and loaded, ready to go to FAMU. I'm accepted. I got a room assignment. Me and my boy are going to room together. And he, drops this down. I'm looking, it's like Johnson C. Smith full ride. There's some other smaller scholarships. And at the bottom of the page, it says University of Miami full academic scholarship. I look at that and I'm like, hey, what's this? I asked him, hey, yeah. Excuse me. He's like, yeah, just let me know if somebody wants this. I'm taking applications. And I was like, well, yeah, sure, me.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me. He was like, okay. So a couple weeks go by. And then he's like, the organization at that point comes back and says, okay, so you're going to get a scholarship. But right now, it's going to either be Johnson C. Smith, which I was like, I ain't going there. Or it's going to be UM, because we got another young lady who's deciding between which one. She's got better grades than you. Sure. Now, here's the thing on grades that I will tell you. This won't happen today. You're looking at somebody that had a 900 on the SAT score, and my GPA was less than a 3.5. And I got a full ride to the University of Miami.
Wow. How'd that happen?
Luck.
Okay.
Being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
It was that guy coming in that office that day asking, do you want a scholarship?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, look at it. Now, having said all that, hindsight being 2020, I was a stubborn ass little kid. I didn't want to go to the University of Miami. I wanted the HBCU experience.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be in the 100.
Gotcha.
I was supposed to be in a band. Because I was in a band in high school. Yeah. And you go to black high school, you know what that is.
Yeah.
My parents had to talk me into it.
Yeah.
My dad was like, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you, but we got your brother behind you and you can get a full ride to UM. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. You going to UM.
Right. Because clearly you didn't care about the finance of the matter.
And the reason why I didn't, just full disclosure, is my father had the sense, although it wasn't when I was in high school, he created a college plan for me. Yeah. It was the Florida prepaid plan. And it had just come into existence a few years. I think I was in junior high when it came around. And that locked in tuition at the time that you signed up. Yeah. So he had that all paid for. So I was like, if I go to FAMU, you're not coming out of pocket any more than you already have. And he's like, but I got to pay for your brothers. Anyway, long story short, that's how I got that scholarship. And again, like I said, 900 on the SAT.
So I'm gonna pause you there because there's a lot of things I think we sped past. First off, I want to interject that there's been a whole lot Miami Carroll City Chiefs talk in these episodes. So one time for the Miami South Ridge Spartans up in here. That's chapter 1 page. But also, I'm curious about, as you are leaving this place where in Carroll City, where you had to assume a lot of behavior, as you said, for survival. Transitioning into a vastly different environment like the University of Miami, like what were the things you had to leave behind and what were the things that served you?
So I'll start with what served me and then I get to what I had to leave behind. What served me was perseverance. Right? Just like almost being stubborn to get shit done. Now, I will tell you what didn't serve me was not being a good student. Right? Now, I say all that about my SAT scores. I think that's, we can get into societal reasons for why that is and what it is. Excuse me. I was a good student. I got good grades. But I don't think anyone sat me down academically. So my father went to college and all these things, but we didn't have those kinds of conversations growing up to really give me what it was going to take to be successful as a mechanical engineer major at the University of Miami, which didn't last. Because I didn't know I don't know what the hell I was thinking that I was going to come out of Algebra 2 as a senior in high school and be taking college level calculus at University of Miami. I don't know what I was thinking. I do not know what the fuck I was thinking. Right? So that's
believed you could fly.
I believed I could fly. So I think what served me is, saying I'm gonna do this shit come hell or high water.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I thought I had fallback in my parents. So I was like, oh, my dad's successful, it's fine. And I was fucking up.
And what do you mean by that fallback?
Like in my mind, I thought my dad's a successful business person. So I'm fine. He's an entrepreneur, he's got a successful business. I can just go work for my dad. Like I'm thinking, I don't know what I don't know what the fuck I was thinking.
Right.
But I think, somebody told me once, the things that make you successful are also the things that could cause you to fail when you over-index.
Yeah.
And I think I was that. I had all this hubris, but I also wasn't necessarily going to class. Right. And so again, I'm algebra 2 trying to take calc and not going to class and failing classes and just doing dumb shit and damn near lost my scholarship twice. But having said that, back to the original question, dude, really at the root of your question, which I think you really are asking, is what the hell was it like being in that environment coming out of a Black high school? Dude, that took a lot of adjustment. A lot of adjustment. And you talk about what I didn't know at the time was impostor syndrome. Because I'm failing classes. I'm in classes with mostly white students. I'll never forget sitting in a classroom up on the second floor. I forget the name of the building, but it doesn't matter. But I'm in class and I don't know what class. It's my sophomore year. And I happen to look outside and this Asian dude pulls up in a Lamborghini Diablo. It's like, what the fuck? What? How does this dude? He's in school. He pulling up in a Lamborghini? Like, Sure, I grew up in Miami. Sure, I knew what Lamborghinis looked like. Sure, that was my dream car as a kid.
Yeah.
But I didn't think anybody my age was driving a Lamborghini. And you talk about imposter syndrome? Going to UM with all these rich white kids? Dude, that was mind-boggling for me.
So I appreciate that. I appreciate that perspective. Also, I want to flag, you're not the point guard today. Don't tell me where I want to pass the ball.
Fine.
If you want to take the shot you want to take when you get the ball, don't tell me where to pass the ball.
Fine.
So let's move it forward then. So you're there, you're figuring it out, you're struggling, you're not going to class, you're fucking off, as you said. Like, what brought you back to center?
So I actually tried to recover my sophomore year. Like, I had to grow up real fast, especially being put on academic probation coming out of my freshman year going to sophomore year. I had to retake physics for scientists and engineers twice. Failed that shit twice. But the second time around, and then Calc 2, because I actually somehow managed to pass Calc 1. And I was going to office hours. Dude, I was doing all the things that I thought I needed to do to be successful. I started going to class more. I started doing all these things, but the shit still wasn't working. And I'll never forget coming out of that sophomore year, me being put on academic probation for a second time. And I started out with a 1.5 GPA as a freshman, then ended up on a 1.0. And I'll never forget the day of me finally having to tell my parents what was going on, because they didn't know.
Right.
They had no clue. And we go to breakfast at an IHOP off of 27th Avenue and University. I'll never forget where, I don't know if that IHOP is there today, but I remember to this day where it was. I remember where I was sitting. Right. We're at breakfast. And I tell my dad, here's what's happening. And my dad looks me square in the face and he says, so what are you going to do about it?
Was that the response you were expecting?
Nope.
What were you expecting?
I was expecting some kind of help. Something, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dad, I love you for it now, motherfucker, but then I didn't. And dude, it was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Now, here's the background on that. I wasn't majoring in engineering because I wanted to be an engineer. I was majoring in engineering because it was what my father wanted me to do. And having that experience when this dude was like, so what we gonna do about it? I was like, motherfucker, I'm majoring this because you want me to and it brought me so hard to reality was when I realized I gotta do this shit for me. Because it was at that point, because I really wanted to major in business. Yeah. And he was like, oh, no, you don't do that, blah, blah, blah. And this is what he did. He majored in business. And I was like, I want to be a business major. And he was like, no, no, no. And after that, I switched my major.
How did it feel sitting in that space?
Dude, it was, I felt so lost. I felt so fucking lost in that moment because I honestly didn't know what to do. So, I can sit here and say, yeah, no, I switched my major, but that's a long thought process from what are you going to do about it to me deciding to get to this place of switching my major. And honestly, I can't sit here and tell you what that thought process was. Yeah. I remember the decision that I made, but I honestly, I don't remember who I talked to. I don't remember why I talked to. I don't know when it was. Like, I just know that it was a decision that I made, and I took everything into my own hands at that point and ran with it.
I think that's a good place for us to take a break. So let's pick up right there in a moment. But in the meantime, for you in the audience, follow us on socials. It'll be a good place for you to interact with us and join the conversation. So as we come back, just a reminder to make sure that you follow us on all social platforms to stay connected and join the conversation. So Kyle, I want us to pick back up when we were talking about that transition when you were changing majors and the imposter syndrome that you were experiencing. What was that like for you?
Man, first of all, sitting in classes with folks who were 1,000 times smarter than you, I think that was part of it. Like, I think that was also why there are a couple classes I stopped going to.
1,000 times smarter, or the perception?
No. Right. No, there was no perception here. Yeah. There was no absolute perception here. Now, could I have sat there and persevered? Yeah. Sure, but I didn't want to be on the 6 to 8 year plan, right? Which I could have done, but I was on scholarship. Yeah. My parents didn't have nearly enough money to pay for that tuition. Yeah. And so I'm sitting in that room, and when I'd say they were smarter than me, I mean, it's people from all over the world. Sure. Right. And they would answer. First of all, professor's asking questions. I don't even know what he's asking. Right. Second, the answers that were coming out, I was like, none of this shit makes sense to me. Yeah. It didn't crush me, but it definitely questioned who I was. Yeah. And it damn sure had me questioning my intelligence. I definitely was in a space of uncertainty and of loss of confidence. But what I will tell you is making that decision to change my major was one of the most empowering decisions I've ever made in my life.
I want to get into how that empowered you, but I also want to offer that I connect with that imposter syndrome that you encountered sitting in that space. Because, brother, when I moved from Miami after my sophomore year of high school and did my junior year in California, going from our school system down there to the school system in Cali, talk about them speaking what felt like a different language on virtually every class I was in. I felt so far behind, bro.
I do. Yeah. I know how. Yes. So it really had me questioning my intelligence and, trying to reconcile being a really, really small fish in a really, really, really big pond.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like I'm watching people be successful in these classes. Now I will tell you that physics for scientists and engineer class, like some of his exams, it was crazy to watch because they would grade on curves.
Right.
And the mean score was like a 56.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't understand that. I was like, why are these professors making these tests so hard and nobody can pass? It didn't compute to me. Now I was failing the shit out of those exams.
Yeah.
It was, stars ablazing failing. Like I was getting like a 10.
Yeah.
Like it was just absolutely bananas to be sitting in that environment. But I also was like, I'm not giving up. That's why I took that class twice. I was like, okay, I got to figure this shit out. Like I got to do something because I have to be successful in this world. I have to. The pressure and the burden was immense, right? Because I'm thinking to myself like, my dad wants me to be an engineer major so I can come and work in this company, and I got to figure this out. That's why I tried to buckle in for sophomore year. I was just like, I got to figure this shit out.
And was that story a story that was handed to you, or just the one you were telling yourself, or some combination?
It was a combination.
Okay.
Right. Well, my dad telling me, I remember having a conversation with him what I should major in.
Yeah.
And he was like, engineer. And I was like, well, maybe I'll be an aeronautical engineer. And, I loved airplanes when I was a kid. And so that was part of the conversation. But also it's just like, I got to be successful in this world. Like, I have to be successful. There was no other way of being for me. I was just like, because I'm not going back to that hood.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just not. Because, which is, I'm going to pivot now, brother. Is that okay? Since you don't want me to be point guard.
Hey, you can pivot to wherever you like to go, sir.
Because the other thing I was battling that I didn't get a chance to talk about earlier was because when I first got to UM, my parents were still living in Carroll City. And two things were pivotal moments.
Okay.
One was I had a godbrother who lived right down the street from me. And we grew up together. We were born in the same hospital. He was born 5 days apart from me. No, I'm sorry. 2 days. He was born 2 days after me. I'm sorry. And his parents became friends. And while I was at UM, he was killed. And I will never forget that feeling in my life. Like that, we were together all the time growing up. Yeah, as we got older, we started to separate a little bit, especially when I graduated and went to UM. But I remember that feeling, and I was just like, I'm so fucking sick and tired of this violence.
Yeah.
Like, and that's why I was just like, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, because my dad had some level of success in his business, they were able to move while I was a freshman and at University of Miami. And my dad went from having, they built onto the house. When we first moved into the house, it was the house I was born in. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Mm-hmm. And they built onto it. It became 4-bedroom, 3-4 baths, I think, blah, blah, blah. But then they moved from that house to a fucking mansion.
Right.
And that was also like, oh, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like, this is the direction I need to be headed in. But the thing that I really want to get to is like going between Carroll City and Coral Gables. Mm-hmm. That was when I started wearing the mask.
Okay.
Because that's when people were like, you talking white.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm going to the University of Miami.
Yeah.
You can call it whatever the hell you want to call it.
Yeah.
But this is what I'm doing.
So they were aware of a transition. Obviously, they didn't know it was a mask. That wasn't their language. Maybe not even yours at the moment.
Nope.
But it's what you can recall, because going there, you were picking up traits, you were picking up skills. And then when you went back home, those traits and skills that you were bringing back home, they were flagging as, hey, what the fuck is this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, because I lived at home.
Yeah.
So I was going home every day.
Got it.
Every day I was going home.
Got it.
So on the weekends, I'm still hanging with my boys who I went to high school with.
Right.
So they're hearing me talk. And over time, I'm talking more and more different. Mm-hmm. And they still talking the same. Because out of all my boys who I grew up with, except for my boy Doug, everybody else, none of them went to college.
Did you recognize the transition yourself, or it wasn't until they?
No,
found it?
I recognized the transition.
Recognized it.
Oh, absolutely
Okay.
recognized the
It
transition.
was a conscious transition.
It was a conscious transition because I had to be more comfortable operating in the space of where I was during the day than what I was at home, right? So that's why my parents moving was a pivotal, because they moved from the hood to a country club, right? Literally moved into a country club.
Yeah.
So there wasn't so much of a transition every day at that point, right? And that was my freshman year. So that was it. I got comfortable not taking the mask off.
Wow. That's deep, bro.
It's what it is, bro.
When did you get to the place, and I don't want to fast forward too far in the story with this question, but I'm curious as to when you got to the place to where you recognized, oh shit, I'm wearing a mask all the time now.
Dude, years and years and years
Years
later.
and years later.
Years and years later. I mean, decades later.
Decades later.
Yeah.
Out of college, in the workplace.
Well professional.
Okay.
Mid-career.
Okay. So let's tuck that. And then now you've made the pivot in college. You've changed majors. You are now more focused because you've gotten a fucking reality check, right? You're on your way out. You've come in a young boy. You're leaving a young man.
Yep.
What are the things that you've picked up, during that period that you're now carrying into the full-fledged adulthood as you moving into the work world?
So what I will say is I want to tell a story about what solidified the mask for me, and that carried me. This is going to answer your question.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing for a job, right? And there was this young lady. I don't remember her last name. Her name, first name was Kajal. And she, because of her, is what set me on a professional path that I'm still on to this day. Yeah. And at that time, the way it worked at University of Miami is you had to go into the Career Center and submit your resume for consideration, because they were doing on-campus interviews and all that stuff. And so they would tell you if you got selected or not. So Anderson Consulting, or Arthur Anderson Worldwide, as it was called back then, showed up on campus.
Gotcha.
And I'm submitting my resume to all these. And now what I will say is, by the time I graduated, my major, my GPA in my major was a 3.7. Like, I made a complete and utter switch.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, all right, I'm trying to get me a really good job. I'm getting no good interviews. The best interviews I got were for Sherwin-Williams. And they were like, you can come and we can put you in the management trainee program and you work in our stores. And I was like, I don't do that shit. So I submit my resume for Anderson and it doesn't get accepted. Yeah. Now, what they were doing back then is they would also come and do a informational session the day before they do interviews. So Cajal, I'm just like, well, they didn't accept me, they didn't want to interview. She was like, come to the informational session, bring your resume. Yeah. They're also going to be looking at resumes at that point. I was like, yeah, but they're not. She was like, come. Yeah. So I go and go through that informational session, and they were like, okay, let's look at people's resumes who we haven't selected. And so I get to talk to them. Yeah. And so I'm telling them about my story and my history, and they're like, yep, we want to interview you. So fast forward, I make it through the couple rounds of the interviews, and I'm sitting in the final on-campus interview, because I think there were 2 rounds on campus. And I'm talking to this white gentleman, and still, I had hubris. So I'm like, so let me ask you a question at the end of the interview, because I feel like it went well, right? I feel like I'm going to make it off-campus interviews. And I say, so I have a little bit of a beard. What do you think about me interviewing with facial hair? And this gentleman says to me, he's like, it's your choice. He's like, it's up to you whether you want to rock. He didn't say rock the beard, but he was like, if you want to have a beard or not. He was like, but you don't want to give anybody an excuse to have a strike against you. Yeah. And after that, it solidified the mask for me. It was, all right, obviously I got to make these white folks feel comfortable with me. Yeah. Right? Because I got strikes against me. I got bad grades on my transcript. I got, you know what I'm saying?
That word, Make them comfortable, or the phrase of making them comfortable.
Yeah, I know.
Something to my body.
I hear you. I hear you, but I'm just saying and I'm using the language that I was thinking at that stage in my life.
And I know that language so well.
Yeah.
And again, it was also a principle that I lived by for the longest time.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
So hopefully that answered your question to kind of, that I took that with me into the workforce.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw this lob again because you didn't dunk it exactly like I thought you might dunk it.
Right.
I'm familiar also that you met someone in college.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And that kind of had an impact on you as well.
It did. And she played a major role in that whole interview process, right?
There you go. Now you windmilling the dunk. Go ahead.
She played a astronomical fucking role in that process. And I'll never forget, right? So I'm interviewing, you gotta have suits and ties and all this stuff. And I ain't got it.
Yeah.
My dad had to wear suits and ties. So at that point, he and I was somewhat, I'm taller than him, but it's still enough that I can wear some of his stuff. And at that point, he wasn't wearing suit ties anymore. So I make it to the first round of interviews and I'm raiding this man's closet and it's got fucking moth holes in the seat of the pants, like all this shit. And I'm just like, all right, I was able to scrap some shit together. Boom, got that.
Yeah.
So then I find out I make it to the second round. I ain't got nothing. And I'm talking to the girl I'm dating who will become my wife at the time. And I'm telling her, I got to go to class, but I got these interviews. Because they tell you, let's call it this a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And you got to come back the next day for the next set of rounds. And you may have to interview 2-3 people.
Yeah.
Spread out across the day. So I'm like, yo, I don't have time because I'm living off campus.
Sure. I
drive an hour home, drive back every day. And I'm just starting to date this young lady. So it's not like, and she's got an apartment, but not like I haven't gotten to the point where I can, like, can I spend the night at your spot?
Right.
Can't do that. So anyway, fast forward, I'm talking to her. I was just like, yeah, so this is the dilemma. I don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm as soon as I get out of class, I'm coming to your spot and let's go to Marshall's and let's go to these other places to find some stuff. I get to her place. She's like, I got something for you. And she opens the door to her bedroom. And this woman who it's probably April or May. We started dating in February of that year. So this is probably April or May.
Yeah.
She opens the door to her bedroom and she has gone and bought me shirts, ties, pants, socks. And she's got them laid out on the bed. Wow. I got chills just saying.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? I was like, oh shit. I got all these emotions, but I still got the tough guy persona. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna let her see me. I'm like, just, because I still gotta, she still gotta know I'm a man, right? But dude, I was like, oh shit. I was like, I got to lock in with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I'm telling you, I don't think anybody's ever in my life to this day done something like, I goddamn, tear just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Has ever done anything like that for me?
Yeah. What did it make you feel?
Love. And we're in that stage in our relationship. We weren't saying I love you, and we still early dating. And I'm just like, we still early dating. Like, she did this shit for me. Yeah. And never asked a dime from me.
Yeah.
Mind you, she ain't got shit. We both ain't got shit together. Like, she's working her ass off. She ain't even on scholarship. She's on loans. So she's going to work at night to help pay for school. So she did this shit for me. I was like, yeah, I got to lock in on this.
And it was on from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't look back. And now I've been married for 24 years.
That's a word. That's a beautiful thing. Man. That's a beautiful thing. So now that you've gotten somebody in your corner.
Yeah.
Your sense of self-worth maybe bolstered to a whole new level, right? And you're stepping out into the world, as a whole man. What's that part of your journey like?
Yeah, at the beginning of that year, the beginning of my professional career, I was a driven mofo. I wanted to climb the ladder so fast that it wasn't even funny. dude, I cannot. I was busting my ass at work. I was trying to impress these folks like nobody's business, and I was successful at it.
Yeah.
I was moving up the ranks. I was actually pissed. The first round of interviews, I wanted to be one of the first to be promoted early because I was doing the damn thing. Like I'm telling you, I was doing the damn thing. Yeah. I was leading people within 6 months of getting into Anderson Consulting. Nice. I was like, yo, what's next? What's next? What's next? I was just like really trying to get there fast, man. And I had my eyes set on a corner office.
Something stuck with me very deeply when you were sharing that piece, and you led with trying to impress these people.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, the impetus to impress them.
Dude, be successful.
Okay.
It was, you know, my boy Doug is extremely competitive.
Yeah.
And so am I.
Sure.
Right. And it was success, title, and money.
Got it.
Those things all equated to the same thing in our minds, especially early in the career.
Equated to what in your mind?
Success.
Okay, let me ask the question a different way then. Those things that equated to success meant what to you internally?
Oh, all the bullshit in the world, acquiring things. It wasn't even about self-fulfillment. I was of the mindset that success meant happiness.
Got it.
Right. And that's why I was so driven. I was just like, I got to get all the things that are external markers that say you were successful in the world. That was really my purpose in life. Like it was, I'll never forget it. I don't necessarily regret saying this, but it was so fucking superficial. So fast forward a few years, and I've made the decision that I'm going to marry this woman, right? And of course, I got to get a ring. And I say to her, all right, in this order, this is how this is going to go. I got to get my BMW, I got to get my condo, and then you get your ring. I said that to her. I honestly said that to her. Now, the fuck that she stayed with me after me saying some bullshit like that is huge, but it's what I said. Like it had to be all the things. Like I had to get the things, and I did all those things. Like I was like, nope, in that order, I did those things.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna shoot you some bail because you said those things and she stayed with you. I said something way worse to my wife when I first met her, and she still decided to engage with me. Because when we were getting introduced to each other at the time, I was in a very selfish space. And I was pretty fresh off my first marriage, and this was pre-therapy. And so for me, I'm just moving through the world like angry and selfish. Yeah. So when the girl asked me that was introducing us, me not knowing that she was trying to hook us up, she was like, you a nice dude. Like, what type of girls you like? I'm gonna hook you up with somebody. And I said, with full confidence, well, she got to have a big booty and a banging body, and she can't wear all natural deodorant because that shit don't work.
Okay, I got nothing.
Somehow, by the grace of God, I still made it with this lady. We all married, going on our 12-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Yes. I think that's a great place for us to take a break. Before we do that, though, remember to follow us on social so that you can stay connected to the conversation. So we're back, and again, just a quick reminder to follow us on all social channels so that you can participate in the conversation. Kyle, I want to take us really quickly, though, to that thing I had put in the parking lot about that mask and the revelation of that. Tell me about like when you realized that you were wearing the mask and the impact that that had on you.
So, I talked about the fact that I was really trying to climb that corporate ladder really fast. Like I wanted to get there. I wanted to be first of everything. I got promoted to executive level 6 months after making my management ranks. And I was doing it. Like I was really moving fast.
Right.
But what I didn't realize is I wasn't doing it for me. I was chasing a ghost. I was trying to be, one, I was trying to make my father proud. And two, I was trying to be way more successful than he ever was. And not because it was for any like negative reason. I wanted, again, it was back to, I wanted my dad to be proud of me. But I wanted him to see that his son could really go there. And I'll never forget the day. So I'm now a senior director, and I've got a team of people reporting to me. I got several direct reports. I've got an executive admin, like all the things that say you're successful as a budding executive. But dude, first of all, I was asked to slash $20 million out of the budget. And so that meant layoffs. And dude, that shit was tough. There are 2 days that I will never forget in that role. One was when I had to lay off probably 10 people in the same day. And I was a fucking wreck. That morning when I had to do that, I had to close my office and got on my knees and prayed. Because the anxiety was killing me. And then the second day, after all of that happened, it was so much pressure because the role I was in, I had transitioned out of technology, but it was still kind of like technical adjacent. And I'm supporting sales. I'm in sales, dude. Salespeople are just like they're neurotic. Like you don't fuck with my money. And as far as they were concerned, I was fucking with their money. And so the pressure was immense. And so there was one day where the pressure was so palpable that I could barely see. And I'm driving home. I left the work office early or something like that. And so I think I was like, I can't anymore. I can't do this. I go to the car wash. I pull up, get in line, get out the car, and I walk away from the car. And I fucking broke. I had a nervous breakdown in the parking lot of the car wash. And I'll never forget, I call my wife, and she's at work, right? So she doesn't answer. And I'm like, what do I don't know. And I call my dad. And he picks up. And I'm a sobbing fucking mess. And he can't understand the word that I'm saying. He just knows that I am crying unconsolably. He's thinking somebody has died. And so I was just like, I feel like a failure. And I did. In that moment, I felt like a failure. But what I ended up doing was I had to take FMLA leave. I left work. And let me tell you, dude, that this was probably in 2014, 2015, maybe 2016. Mental health. But everybody was like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Like, I got pressure. I got stress. I got anxiety.
Figure it out.
Figure that shit out. And I was like, I'm sorry. I gotta go home. I gotta go figure this out for myself. And dude, I was looked on like, what the fuck are you doing? And I lost that job. Like I lost that role. But that set me on my emotional journey, like real emotional journey. That was when I started going to therapy. That's when I went through that process. And I will tell you, that's another day I will never forget. It's my first day of therapy. I was a wreck. Like I'm going through the session the first time and she's asking me questions and I don't know why she's asking me all these questions. And I'm fidgeting and she's like, stand up and just stay still. I couldn't stay still. I couldn't I had to move. I had to be And at the end of that, she's like, you got all the markers for depression. She's like, I did this, you couldn't do this. I asked you this, you couldn't do this. I asked you that, you couldn't say this. You could. Just like all these things. She's like, yeah, you
Clinically.
yeah. She's like, you're clinically depressed. She was like, yeah, you need some time to yourself. But I will tell you, going on that journey, that's what then made me realize I didn't want any of that shit I was after. I didn't want a corner office. I didn't want to be a successful technology executive. I was pursuing all that shit for the wrong reasons. And I was killing myself doing it. Literally, I'm not talking about figuratively. I mean, literally, my pressure was up. All the markers that lead you to poor health, like heartburn, like severe and bad heartburn. Like, and I'll never forget, I went to a very senior person, was a mentor of mine. And I was like, man, they got me on these pills. He was like, oh, welcome to the club. And that stopped me in my brakes. I was like, this is not the life I want to live. This is not the shit that I want to have to deal with. Dude, it was just one of those things that it brought me to my knees, but I am thankful for the experience.
Wow. Wild how that happens, right? That's powerful, brother. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Because like I knew some of that, but I didn't have all of the details that you just shared. Shit, you inspired me, and hopefully it inspired others that heard it.
I hope so, man, because that was the other thing or learning for me coming out of that was going through that experience and seeing how people reacted. And none of them were supportive. The only people that were supportive were people in the house, in my house. And I was just like, I don't want others to have that lonely feeling.
Right.
I want to be a light for people to understand that it's okay to have a nervous breakdown. It's okay for you to pivot in life. It's okay for you to go to therapy.
Yes.
And what I also had to learn was it's the strong ones who go through that.
Come on.
It's the weak ones who don't own that shit.
Come on.
And dude, I will tell you, that was a struggle to get to that place. Because I thought it was the opposite. I thought it was the weak ones that went through what I was going through. That's why I felt like a failure.
I connect to that. Because had you not gone through that, you would not have been able to then counsel me and help me understand the difference between what real strength looks like.
Yeah.
I'm going to pivot from what we typically do at the end of these episodes. I'm not going to ask you, the two questions that we typically end with, because I'm going to end this a little bit different.
All right.
So as you, of course, know, I've reached out to your loved ones and I've got information. But unlike what we typically do where we just read, I also have a couple of recordings that I'm going to share with you. So I'm going to go ahead for the sake of time and jump into one of those right now.
This one's giving me a little anxiety on here. Especially since my son is off camera right here, just sitting here listening.
Kyle, Malcolm X, Dad, Daddy Cakes, all of the above. Oh, don't we have some stories that we could share and go days back? When your wife and Mr. Malik brought this upon me to share a video of how I've experienced you, emotionally growing up, first thing that popped into my head was our first daddy-daughter dance. Not everybody has a chance to go to a daddy-daughter dance with somebody who will drop everything in an instant for you. So for that, I am very grateful. And for that first showed me the type of man that you are, which is somebody who will always be there for his children, as somebody who has tapped into his own emotional intelligence, that he knows what we need, when we need it, and how we need it, no matter the time or situation or circumstance. I really think our first breaking point, or not even breaking point, the thing that's really stuck with me that we have gone through heck and back, I won't curse for you, heck and back, is me and soccer. You have always, always, always been there for me for soccer since the start of it all, since I was booty cheeks back in like black team days, white team days when I was playing rec for High Point, all the way up till the first tryout day for when I went out for SCCL. Not even a top team, not even a second top team. SCCL. You were there for me. You cheered me on. You poured everything you had into me just so I could achieve that little accomplishment. And come to find out, I made the highest team. I genuinely think you were more excited than I was before it really hit me. All of that effort and energy you had poured into me paid off, which has led me to where I am right now, even though we've had a few bumps in the road because, injuries and all of that, which leading to my next thing because, man, oh man, the injuries is obviously not like your son's because, he had to be difficult and required big surgery, a lot of money, yada, yada, yada. Me, after countless amount of ankle sprains, groin stresses, stress fractures, something pulled, anything, you're always there to bring me back up to anything you bring my confidence levels back up. You encourage me every day, every hour to do what I need to do to be able to get back on the field so I can be the best player I am. I truly thank you for that because I think that has really shaped the person that I am today. Because even a few months ago, I could have told you there were so many doubts in my mind if soccer was for me truly for the next level. But your confidence that you instilled in me and your reassurance really got me through that recovery period because it was long, it was unexpected, and it was really long and it was really hard because that was one of the biggest injuries I had had and one of the biggest um, recovery periods I had ever had. I don't think anybody could have ever guessed that was how my season would have started. But from the get go, when I was told I'd be out for a while, up until when I was put in a cast, you were there. You understood how I felt, and you didn't make me feel like it was my fault because that's just who you are. Even when I've had, my BS moments with soccer and, not doing what I need to do and all of that, you still made sure to let me know that soccer comes second to all else, even in my own life, and that without soccer does not define me. Without soccer, that doesn't mean I'm a lesser person. And you constantly telling me that, I think that really shows how emotionally intelligent you are to the point where you can tap into my emotion in order to get through to me. Of course, because you always tell me, I speak Marley, I know what you're thinking before you even know, yada, yada, yada. I laugh at that every time, but I do think it is true sometimes. It really is because you understand my language to another level. And I don't know how. It's a little freaky, but it's, and now it's even come out with, 16, license, uh, boys, not your favorite subject, but we get past it. We live and learn. I think you have really, you have truly surprised me with the way this has all gone about because you even knew I was I'm always scared to tell you things, but your reactions just don't match what is pictured in my head. And that just shows how much you have grown as a person to be able to be there for me and support me in all aspects, even if it's not something you totally have the hang of or are comfortable with. So for that, I really thank you. I can't explain how much you've helped me and how much you've helped me grow by the way that you've grown. I really think that I am a better person because of who you are and how I've been able to watch you grow throughout the last as many years as I know. Because I know growth comes in all different types of shapes and patterns, but yours, I'm so proud of everything you've done, everything you continue to do, and just how you handle and hold yourself as a person individually and as groups as a family. So I love you, Daddy.
Powerful, bro.
Yeah. You don't know the impact you have.
Absolutely. You ready for the next one?
Yeah. Oh boy. This one. This is from the one who doesn't really talk a lot. So this is gonna be interesting.
Well, well, well. If it isn't Mr. Vaughn, I've been tasked with, I've been given a little assignment on talking about my experiencing you emotionally throughout my life. And so when your wife told me to, use little benchmarks to talk about it, whoo, that made it so easy because, boy, yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. We'll say that. Starting as a kid, all the times I would have to hand in my homework with it soaking wet from all the tears from you yelling at me over the homework. Yes.
What's two plus
hmm
two?
it was so it became a, oh, can mom help me? Why does dad have to help me? Dad yells all the time. He's always yelling at me about what 2 plus 2 is, right? And then it was like dad was the strict one out of the two. But I say there kind of started to be a shift and we started to kind of grow our relationship more. I'd say when I tore my ACL, just because like during rehab and things like that, you were literally always there for me and by my side throughout that entire process. There were so many times where I did think about quitting and, you were there to pick me back up and keep me pushing and keep pushing me. Um, to recover and get back and have such a good recovery process. And that really has stuck with me. And I like that has only, that's almost like the foundation of our relationship and how we've grown together. And just like since then, transitioning to Valor, where I transferred schools, I went from a public school to a private school that was tiny, you know. And, I'd say our relationship grew even more. And, we bonded over basketball and, our with both of us knowing Greg and, Kevin and all the other people and the fact that, you would show up at practice and stay there and watch the entire time for whatever reason. Still don't understand that. Um, but just seeing that and like, especially when I couldn't play in the state championship too, and even though we won, I was a little disappointed that I couldn't play, but the fact that you were still there supportive and like you were still, just as proud as me for accomplishing that, as if I had played, and that really meant a lot to me. And going into senior year, just we did have our rough moments senior year. Um, you didn't think I was gonna graduate. Let's not forget about that. But just you giving me advice on just college and what to expect and what to do. And like I'll never forget when we took the tour at UM and you became the the tour guide. So that was nice. That wasn't embarrassing at all. But just the little moments like that. I still remember that. It was a fun experience for me because it was we rarely have done just a guy's trip or gone somewhere with just us two. So going down to UM and visiting that place and spending time together with just us was really a really special moment for me. And then graduation and my graduation party was just the cream of the crop because like I got to fully, I don't know, when especially when you gave that speech too at during graduation, It was so heartfelt. And I honestly don't, that might have been the first time, like, I saw you cry in, like, I saw you cry, maybe just in general. And so, seeing you be vulnerable like that was just amazing. And, it really resonated with me, and it's one of the reasons why I've looked up to you like this because, you're such a you have such a incredible personality, and the way that you go about life and interact with people is very inspiring for me. And then going on to college, just the fact that we're able to have like just simple conversations about life and how college is going and things like that. It's literally, who would have thought? Cause not me. But just seeing how we have progressed and how we both have matured and grown, emotionally, intelligently, mentally, and things like that. And how, now I just call you and we just talk about what's going on in life and like looking and about the future and like what I want to do and how things are going to go like that. It's really great to see how far we've come. And it's really great to see how far you have come. You started out, you know, yelling at your son every day, getting whoopings. So that was nice. And now we just sit and can have simple conversations about just about anything. So it's been really great to see your growth emotionally over these years, and I'm really proud about what you've done and what you're continuing to do.
That was dope, man.
Yeah, man.
That was super dope.
And now we're gonna put the bow on it.
Oh boy.
Yeah. We're gonna put the bow on it.
Oh boy.
Let me just get to those beautiful words.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear words of your children
Mm-hmm.
and how you don't think they're listening. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Who is Kyle Vaughn? We met in college at the U, baby. He will forever be the guy with the shucky ducky glasses, shucky ducky quack quack,
And the backpack.
and the backpack.
Yes.
What drew me to him was the fact that he flew under the radar, meaning he was handling his business without any fanfare. His name wasn't part of any rumor mills, he didn't sleep around, and no one, to my knowledge, had anything negative to say about him. I guess real G's move in silence like lasagna.
Oh.
Yeah, she went there. He persevered when things got tough academically and was smart and savvy enough to change the path he was on to finish on top. Marriage and kids weren't part of my plan, but Kyle somehow is truly an unsolved mystery. Got me to see things differently. We dated for 5 years, all caps, before marrying in 2001, and still thought we married too young. Well, it's been 30 long years, and he still makes me laugh, still knows how to frustrate and piss me off, and still knows how to love me. He's a chameleon and can adapt to his surroundings. Suit and tie, shit 1 minute, least preferred, but the man knows how to wear a damn suit. And rocking off whites with fear of God gear the next, most preferred. He's comfortable in his own skin and has learned to be unapologetic about who he is. He makes himself a priority. Those 7 a.m. haircuts stay on the books. You hear me? And I've had to learn to be partially blind to his sneaker obsession. And he had the nerve to create many sneakerheads in Riley and Mark. Speaking of, he loves his kids. He's a wonderful father who takes pride in, as he should, preparing them for adulthood and life in general. We joke that we play different roles. He prepares and I protect. No denying that. If he calls you a friend, you're blessed. It means you've been invited to experience all of him, the good, bad, and ugly. It means he values, appreciates, and has love for you. But man, don't ever try to talk shit or shit talk about him and not expect to get what you get. He will gut you, and there will be tears and pouts, and not from him. Folks forget that he's from Carroll City. And he grew up around his Caribbean family. If you dish it, you better be able to take it too.
She ain't never lied.
He has this magnetic energy that pulls people toward him. Women and some men confide in him. They refer to him as their big or little brother. That's good and bad. He's someone that makes space for others. It's just never about him. It's a deep thinker. He's a deep thinker and more spiritual than people realize. He must step into his day with ease. He needs his alone time to listen to a podcast or catch up on social media. And he must have his cafe con leche. He's our personal barista. Ask him about his collection. I think this will be his fallback in retirement. He loves a good adventure and hates to be overscheduled. He is a go with the flow kind of guy. And he's particular about certain things like where he sits in the movie theater or owning unique items or one of the kinds or his cars. He's a BMW snob. That only falls second to his love of Lamborghini. He is also a popcorn snob. I guess he's a snob overall. Just kidding. I can say so much more, but we'll end this by saying he is my person. Love him from infinity to infinity. And with that,